Welcome to the Photoshop tutorial. I hope you enjoyed the book, The Creativity Code. If you haven't got it, I think you should go pick it up. It's a great guide to design, architecture, and really unleashing your creativity and how you can do that with simple, rational, and creative principles and put it all together. My name is Alex Gore, if you're not familiar. I run an architecture firm with Lance Psycho. And we also teach at CU Boulder, and we teach engineers how to design. So this kind of came through that course and all the other stuff we've been doing out through the years. But on to the meat, and the meat is Photoshop. So if you haven't been into Photoshop, I'll give you a quick overview of basically how to start something and what everything is that you're seeing. So if you're starting something from scratch, you can go to File, New, and then here you set your size. The main thing is right away you can put your file name. So we always normally do date backwards, and the reason for that is that it can organize itself. And let's do test. Next thing right here, you can change these from pixels to inches if you want, or you can stay in pixels if you want. There's also a whole bunch of other options too. Let me turn that off. Then once you put that in, you can put in your width. So let's do 10 and a height of 5, and our resolution. Normally 300 is the standard. Even if you're doing something for the internet where they say 72, just 300 is good, because 72 you start to not see that resolution that you really need. So I'm going to hit OK, and now I have my workspace right in here. I have my toolbar. And then I have my headers right over here, and then I have some properties. So a quick overview of what's going on is you can open up multiple different images, and then they'll all pop up in here. So this is move. So let's say you had different stuffs on here, different items, you could move them. Those items are going to be in layers, and we'll go over those layers in a bit. But I just want to run down everything we got here. There we go. I want you to be able to see some of the layer options. This is select, so you could select something. You could hit Control X to cut, even though there's nothing there. Control V for paste. This is also a selection tool. So this lasso, so let's load something in. These are going to be some examples. Here we go. Let's say we wanted this as a background picture. So you can just drag and drop it, and it will come in. I'm going to hit Control Z. I'm going to hit exit to not have that take place. I'm going to drag this so this isn't the whole thing. And now when I drag and drop it, it'll open in a new tab. I can also put this one back in here. So now I can switch back and forth. So let's say we like this, but we want to take out the sky because we want a different sky for whatever reason. I'm hitting Control plus to zoom in, and then exit, H for the hand tool, and the hand, basically now I can just pan around. So let's say I wanted to cut this out. I can go to this selection tool, and I'm going to do the polygon lasso, because that will go from where I click to where I click. And you can do this for people. You can do this for anything that you really need. And let's say I'd go all the way around, and then let's say I'm going to go up to select all this. I'm just moving up basically, and it's going. And then I'm going to come back down, and I'm going to find my point, and I'm going to click on it. And now that whole thing is selected. What I like to do, and this is a trick, instead of just deleting it, let's add a new layer. So let's add a new layer, and then let's go edit fill. So edit fill, and we're going to make that black. Okay. So we didn't cut anything out. And the reason I like that, and I'd be more precise around here, is that we're going to keep adding on to this. So we wouldn't do the whole thing at once, because sometimes you'll screw up, hit something wrong, and we're going to do it in pieces. And then also we'll always have that there in case we need to like go and refine or add on, right? So on this same layer, we have that black. I'm going to keep selecting, and I'm going to keep going around and pretend like I'm doing a good job. All right. And then let's say I screwed up. let's say I screwed up and I went down here and I didn't want that piece, right? So I'm going to come, and then once it has an O, it's good to go. Up here are your different selections. So this next one I could add on to my selection. All right, see how that added on? This next one I can subtract. So I can say, get out of here. And you really want to be talking to your Photoshop when you're going. You'll create a good bond if you just talk to it. And plus, once computers start to read our voice, you'll just be ahead of the flow. This is going to do the intersection. So if I do this, it's only going to select, oops, right in there. So let's say I had a good selection. I could edit, fill it again, and then keep adding to that, right? Then, once I had that whole thing, here, I'm going to deselect, Control D. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to hit Control and click in this box, and that will always select everything that's in there. Then I'm going to go down to this layer. I think I have to double click on it to make it not locked. So then I can hit Delete. And if I turn this layer off, you can see it's deleted. So basically what's going to happen is that the higher the level, it's either going to be above or below. So let's keep going down here. There's some pattern stamps, some more advanced one, and I'm just going to show you the basic ones. There's going to be text. Here's your text. So this will automatically create a new layer, and you can type something. So you can type in whatever you want. Hello world. So all of a sudden you can see that it's not showing up even though it's on top, and that's because the color is black. So I'm going to select all that. And this is your primary color and your secondary color. So you could just switch it, right? And I had caps locks on. Hello world. Right? Or what you could do is you could select, click on here, and then this is going to bring up your colors. So you can find a color, you can insert a color, all that. You can even, if you like this color, you can hit add to swatches, and then you can name it. Cool color, hit OK, and then it's going to be in your swatches. So I'm going to hit OK, so now it's going to be that color. Some things you can do to kind of highlight is, let's say you want it over here, and I'm going to zoom out. Whoa, this is a huge picture, and I'm going to crop. So I'm going to find my crop tool, and this Photoshop is new to me, so it'll take me just a second to find it. Pros will be like, oh, it's right there. Okay, I found it. It popped up. I had to change. Right here, they have different setups for you. I was on 3D, and I'm going to set it to, you know what, let's see what Essentials has. Even Essentials have it. So there's my crop tool. It's going to give me these little things that I can just pull in. I'm going to hit enter, okay? So now I'm going to take my text, which moved down here, and I can hover over it. I can make this bigger. I'm going to select, and I'm going to change that from 10 to 72. There we go. 72. So there's that. And behind it, I'm going to add a layer. I'm going to move that layer below. I'm going to put a little ribbon in there. I'm going to edit fill, and you'll learn these shifts, F5s, all these little hotkeys. And then I'm going to, over here, I'm going to take my opacity down and bring it down. And then I'm going to hit Control D select, go to my text. Oops. It wants to lock on, which is not helping me right now, but I'll fix that. And I'm going to change it to white. So I just changed it back to the standard and then flipped them back and forth with this little button. Hit OK, and now it's still on move, so I'm going to move it right there, and we have a nice little thing. So I'm going to bring forward an example, and here you can see a fully developed image. You can see right in here where I did that little trick. You can see now one of the keys to making an image and even a logo or anything like that is the concept of contrast and then foreground, midground, background. So in our foreground I have trees, and if you are in architecture you can get these from a lot of different sources. You can also buy people from a lot of different sources, and there's also even some free ones that you can search for. So these are kind of framing the pictures. Then the midground is this image, and then the background is the sky, and then that image below, which is the one that we were actually working on. I just moved it off to the side so that we could, so that I wanted this kind of angle coming in here. I did have to put in a new background because my picture stops right here behind the building, but I needed a sky that fit the whole thing. So think about that depth and then contrast. What you'll see is that it takes a lot of different layers, and layer organization is key. So that's why I tried to label things like kid. You know, sometimes I don't do the best at it. People, you know, that's not the best name. Foreground trees. So here's my foreground trees. Behind the wall, copy. So yep, there's a little wall there, and you can see that, you know, left no stone unturned, and put, because I knew in the plans that there was planters back there. So there's a whole bunch. Girl, right? That was a girl right there. So just know that it takes a lot of effort to kind of make something pop. Another example is these images. If you saw in the book, we might have talked about this image where she was a lighting designer, so we used the light bulb L in the center, and it displayed the whole spectrum of light because she dealt with LEDs, which is that contrast on a black background. Right here, this Turner. So they went with a different card, but this was one of the concept. They're a great realty group here in Longmont that it was their 50th year anniversary. So they were going, you know, they were kind of turning the page, being new. Their colors are green, but you know, this kind of reminiscent of this old school into the new, and then you have your little logo over there. How I did something like that, so you can see how like a concept can really make an idea pop, is that if I go back and if let's say I'm going to do a new one, I'm going to turn these into inches, and let's say that that's just fine. Is I simply went and did different lines and tried multiple times and different layers, and then, you know, shift, I think it's shift F5, there's your fill, and I went to a color, oops, and I found a good color, hit OK, hit OK, hit deselect, went to the next one, snapped right on, and you can see, oh, and then I'd make a new layer just in case I didn't like that. So if I made a whole bunch and let's say I didn't like one going back, I could just select that layer and then change it slightly, right? And you could do that. So shift F5. Yep, shift F5. There we go. Color. Let's hit it again to make it slightly darker just by pulling down. Hit OK, hit OK. I'm going to double click on here so it unlocks that. I'm going to hit deselect, so I'm deselecting the one that I have. And then I'm just going to click in here. I'm going to hit Control. Oh, I guess that didn't go on that layer. I guess that, oh, it must have. Yeah. Oh, that's why. The whole thing is that layer. So let's say I wanted to select the second one. I'm going to hit in there, hold my Control key when I select, and then I could go Edit Fill and I could change that. And that's essentially how I made this whole card. Here you can see the same concept of foreground, midground, background, and then the contrast with the sky. Here you can see how we use the text to really pop and indicate, you know, a graphic, so we can start to put things over renderings. And then here's actually the biggest tip. So this is a museum in Longmont that we helped do some stuff for. And every time I do something in Photoshop, I look for another trick, tutorial, or something I can add. So these car lights are something that I just Googled and then kind of followed the tutorial and just added that to my arsenal. So let's keep going. So you have other things like a paint. So paint brush bucket will just paint the whole thing. It's on white right now, so let's change it to this. So let's paint it that. Gradient. So let's take this off, add another layer. Oops, that is a group. So if you have what you can do is, let's say you have a whole bunch of foreground trees, you can grab these and put them in a group and name them foreground trees. So then now you're a little bit more efficient and you can pump in and out of there. Okay. So gradient, you can essentially then, let's add a layer. You can do a gradient, right? You can change, I'm going to hit Control Z because I want one that kind of fades. So I'm going to go like that. And then here you see, here's your different options. So this one, Control Z, this one is a radial. This one's just from the side. You can do different things like that. So did I show? Yeah, I showed how to bring the opacity down and all that, right? Then you can kind of see through and see to the layers behind. This is your move button, select button. This is your hand, which will just kind of pan around if you're zoomed in, right? Control minus, I'm hitting Control minus to go back out. So let's say another thing that we like to do is, let's bring up the examples. Let's bring up this one. Oops. Let's bring this one down. If you are a photographer or anything like that, there's some things you can do to enhance your photos. So essentially, this one has already been kind of played with and tilted with. So I'm just going to give you where to do these, and just know that I don't think these are going to add as much pop if they were just a raw image. So let's double click. I always like to take it off of the lock. Image adjustments. So the first one is brightness and contrast, and normally always what you're going to do is make it a little bit brighter. See, even that even just seems that's almost too much. And what I like to do is I'll have a sheet of paper and I'll write brightness 32, and I'll just kind of keep track of everything. Contrast, if you go this way, it's going to make the contrast a lot harsher. Here, it's going to make less contrast. So let's just say 30 is a good number. I always like to try to take it even and then hit OK. And then actually Control Z, I'm going to hit Control J, which duplicates this. You can also right click, and there should be a duplicate layer right there. Turn this one off so I always have something, my base to basically go to. Brightness, contrast, and I remember 30 was good. Next one, levels. Levels I don't really play with that much. If you want to Google and see what that's about, go ahead. Curves, sometimes if you press one there and then do another one down there and essentially play with where these 2 points are, it's basically all in your eye, right? And what you like. Okay. This one has already been messed with, so I'm just going to hit cancel. Image adjustments. Don't deal with exposure too much. Sometimes deal with hue and saturation and color balance. So sometimes you'll bring, you'll mess. So this is making it more red, more pink. Saturation, right? You could bring the saturation down, make it old-timey. We're in the Wild West now. Good image, still looking cool. This is really popping the colors away too much. Lightness and darkness. Okay. The other one is color balance. So if you have a specific color that you think is too much, sometimes I just feel like there's too much green. You could say there's too much yellow or not enough yellow. So you could sit there and play with this and just bring out the yellow, or whatever color you want. The key is to experiment. There's been multiple ways that I've just tried doing stuff, and it's turned out absolutely amazing. I'm gonna go over to my notes to see if we toolbar. So you guys can Google. This is your toolbar. You can Google toolbars. There's this guy, OHAVFD at WordPress.com. Photoshop. He lays out sort of what all these are and a little description for it, so that's very helpful. There's another person that kind of organized it really neatly. CSDES Spirit U at WordPress. I think I'll put a link to these so that you guys can take a look at them. But he groups them and then tells you what they're doing. You can always just ask Google, hey, what does the crop button do in Photoshop? What does the lasso do? Magnetic lasso, all that. I hope that that's enough to kind of get you started. What I would always do if I was you is, if you have an idea or a concept, go find something on the internet that's kind of close. And then you can take a stab at it here, but you can kind of pick apart piece by piece, like, oh, okay, you know, how do I make this light thing? And you can kind of Google how to do that. But you know, give yourself that freedom to kind of search for something new, but also don't be afraid to find something that you already like, implement your own ideas on it, and start creating. Some good graphic examples. Pat Flynn, I'm sure you guys might be aware of him. He does some great stuff, but he's a podcaster, but his stuff his website's really nicely done and all that stuff. Hope you enjoyed it. One of the next tutorials will be on how to create a website, which I think in this day and age is huge. Everyone has Facebook, you know, maybe even Twitter, some of those other stuff, but I think if you have your own website, you're putting yourself on another level professionally, and just, you know, put you one step above. And the other one is SketchUp. So that's if you want to start modeling stuff. There's 3D printers. There's going to be all this new technology and how to physically create something. SketchUp is your door in, basically. It won't probably be the end one that you use. And even this website that I teach you might not even be the end one that you use, but basically to get your foot in the door so that you're fluent in these computer programs, and then you can take off with your more nuanced programs later. I hope you enjoyed. If you haven't picked up the Creativity Code, go ahead. It should be on Amazon and hopefully in Barnes & Noble, but don't quote me on that. Let's just stick to Amazon for now. Thanks a lot.